Thanks for tuning in to The Honest Hour. I'm your host, Luis Acevedo, and we have something really funny to start off the show with today. But as some people start coming on in, we'll just, bide our time. So my business is growing. That's awesome. Have a couple proposals we're sending out today. Sent out one yesterday. Hopefully we lock both of those up, and that would be great. Doing this all without debt, which is huge. A lot of business owners are, deeply in debt because of overhead cost. But if you pick the right business, it's scalable and the overhead cost is minimal, right? So I think the overhead cost to get my business started was like $300. And I didn't even get everything I needed until I got my first job, until I secured the first client. So that's something that I feel many people overlook when it comes to businesses. There are many ways to start a business without spending any money up front. Think China going to do anything? Yeah, they already are doing stuff, which we'll dive into here in a second. But really quick, one thing that really changed my mind about business, changed my perspective, because I've always been entrepreneurial, but I always thought that you had to buy something, you had to do something first in order to get your business, and that involved money in some way, shape, or form. In reality, you can start dialing the phones, emailing, whatever, as long as it's like a service-based thing. You can get your clients first and then get the equipment you need, then get the assurance you need, then do the LLC that you'll need. But you can get everything first and then get everything after. So you can save so much money up front just finding if you have a market for what you're doing initially. And I think that that is awesome. And that's what I've been implementing into this business. Now everything in my business is completely, we have everything we need to operate. But when we first started, we didn't have anything. It was just me dialing the numbers, calling people, setting up appointments, getting the deals. As soon as we got our first deal, we got everything we needed. That way, everything that we got that was required was paid off right away. It was paid off within a month or two. Actually, a month. Paid off in 1 month. So didn't get the equipment till it was. So that's what I recommend people do. If you're interested in starting businesses, find something that you can start with no upfront cost. See if there's a product, see if there's a market. That's awesome. That's because females can't drive. He gets it. Oh man. So yeah, we'll let people in here in a second. But first off, so there was the first Tour de France that took place for females. And, let's just show you guys what happened, all right? This is the first one ever, and this is what happened. I'll show you guys on TikTok, too, so you're not left out. Give me a second here. I got to flip the camera and the effects. Give me 1 second, and you guys will all see this, which is hilarious. It's hilarious. This is the first one ever. A massive pile up. And then people just keep going into it. What? That's great. Look at this. Boom. All of them. Then this one. Look at that. Hang on. Let's go back. Why did she keep going? Look at this one right here. She saw it from way back there, and she just went right into it. She just went right into it. One more time. Come on. Okay. These are supposed to be professional bikers, guys. This woman right here, boom, right into the pile. She saw it. This person right next to her saw it. She still kind of fell. The person right next to them saw it. They still kind of fell. Guys, that was great. How in the heck do you just keep seeing, what? Oh, my God. They didn't have anyone to yell at for getting lost. Right, dude, this is great. So if they can't ride bikes, and these are professional bikers in the Tour de France, can they drive cars? Just saying. Now imagine it's a highway pileup, a highway car pileup. It's going to be the same scenario. There's going to be somebody that's the opposite of a man. I got to be careful with my language here because they're probably going to kick me off. But there's going to be somebody opposite of a man driving an orange Kia freaking Forte cruising around. Next thing you know, she sees the pile up, and then what happens? She sees it from like 4 miles away, and then what do I do? What do I do? And then she just joins it. Hilarious. Happens quite often in men's racing. Oh, whatever. Get out of here. It's hilarious. We get you've never felt the touch of a woman. I feel the touch of a woman whenever I desire. I have a wife that stays pregnant, so this happens with male right. Oh my God, we got all these softies in here. This is hilarious. It's hilarious, guys. I've never seen a pile up. I've never seen it make the news in biking. I'm sure you can find it for male bikers. I'm sure, but I've never seen it like I've seen it for the first one. And plus, it's the first one. It's the first one. Oh my God, guys, this is hilarious. I am. I'm not wavering one bit. Trump did, I guess, artificially lose, you could say. Yeah. I mean, a loss is still a loss, right? So even if somebody cheated to win, they still won. Didn't some group of women build a bridge then collapse? Probably. Probably. Oh my gosh. Yeah, probably it was Sammy Vada. What is funny about people getting injured? Oh my gosh, get out of here. Explain why it's fun. It's hilarious because it was their first one. And they're professionals. And why did the one in orange just go right into it? She saw it from far away. She just kept riding her bike like, oh no, what do I do? What do I do? Well, boom. Done for. Well, she wasn't done for. She's okay. Everybody's okay, apparently. I guess somebody got rushed to the hospital, has a broken collarbone, whatever. Leave the bike riding to the men, all right? Give the men the car keys. Give them the bikes. The world will be a much better place. So, yeah, that's what's going on. That's what's going on in France. Pretty hilarious. Why do you think I like car racing? I don't know. Oh, because I get it. Oh, smart man. Yeah, come to think about it, I had a buddy back in Michigan. He's still my buddy. But he and his father race cars. And come to think of it, I've never once, not saying they can't be out there. Obviously they are. Obviously there probably is maybe like one that's better than a lot. I don't know. But they never once saw a female racer. Pretty interesting. So, yes, in 1 second. So, China. Where's China bluffing? Let's get over to the next topic here. So, China, more serious topic. Nancy Pelosi went to Taiwan against China's demands to do not. And they did. This guy probably buys Andrew Tate's protein powder. Oh, my God. No. I've had these opinions long before I knew who Andrew Tate was. And then Andrew Tate comes along. And he is reaching a lot more people than me, and he's preaching the good word. So kudos to that man. He gets it. Anyway, the thing what's going on in China. So Nancy Pelosi wasn't supposed to go to Taiwan because China was threatening them, saying, this is our red line. You cross this red line, it'll be the equivalent to you crossing the red line in Ukraine for Russians. Well, what does she do? She still goes over to China anyway. China, I guess, started doing military drills around there. Why big families? Who does that help? It helps society. You can't have society without families. And the people who make big families take over the world. All right. Anyway, because they have the most odds to take over the world. So she goes over there. She left today or something. And China's not too pleased. China's not too pleased with it. But they didn't combat it militarily as people expected. But what they are doing now is they're punishing the Taiwanese government for allowing Nancy Pelosi to come, right? So now they're stopping all their exports of fruits. What else? Sand for construction. A couple other things as well that they've stopped. And this is only the beginning, I believe. They're shutting down. They're stopping their construction of a manufacturing plant for batteries in the United States. They're stopping that. We have too many people. Okay. Skedaddle. So yeah, they are basically saying, yo, we're done building here. You guys want to play this game? Cool. And then this is a really good quote. Everybody's going to get triggered. But Mao Zedong, he had a really good quote here that the Chinese are applying. And I'll show it to you guys right now. I'll read it to you guys on TikTok. But everybody on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, you guys can see it. It says, I don't know how legit it is. Somebody on Twitter wrote it. It could be totally fake. However, if it's true, it's very accurate. So it says, we will fight the enemy in our own way. At the time we determine, in the place we determine, will not act according to the enemy's plan, nor will we fall into the enemy's trap. Mao Zedong. Dude gets it. Yeah, he did a lot of bad things. I get it. His philosophy was kind of, bad. But that quote was pretty good, and that's exactly what China's doing. And this is, something that we'll just have to watch and see. Mao was based. I don't think Mao was based, but he definitely got that. And I think the current administration in China, Xi Jinping, for example, he's not a big fan of Mao Zedong, but he is at least following that quote, it appears. So, yeah, I don't think China's bluffing. China's just going to be more strategic. And we have to remember that China has a major influence over the global supply chain. And the U.S. is going to have to deal with that moving forward. So how will the U.S. deal with that moving forward? I don't know. I think that China is only getting stronger. The U.S. is getting weaker. And with that, China is going to become the number one country globally, realm-wide, whatever you want to say for all you globe earthers and flat earthers out there. Globe, realm, I don't know what the hell it is. But anyway, yeah, I think that China is going to start. I've been saying this for a while now, guys. I think China is going to start finding ways to really, really put sanctions on the United States that will hurt us in a great way. So, yeah, now we can, if anybody wants to come on in, we can let people in. Here we go. Hey, what's going on?
Oh, I think so. Okay, cool. This works. So, basically what I was going to say is, first of all, you're right. I'm obviously glad that they're recognizing that, China's rising and the U.S. is declining. And, it's really, and I think that's I'm glad we all see it. And so, as someone who still likes American, my fellow Texan people, I still love Americans, and I think we have a really good thing. There's some problems with our culture, but I think our culture largely it's a really dope culture. It's unique. And it's, and what I want to do is make America like China. So if China's rising and there's something that they're doing, their policies is doing something that's benefiting everyone economically, right? Median wages are increasing while here it's stagnant. People are actually moving into cities. Standard of living is increasing in China. In America, it's actually declining. And so my question to you is, why don't we just emulate what China's doing? Why don't we emulate socialism?
Yeah, because we're not Chinese. It's that simple. Every culture should be able to cultivate in their own nation as they want. And the Americans have a very good culture. They have a very good way of life. The only problem is we've now financialized our capitalism, which has been the biggest issue, right? So when we had industrial capital, it was way different than when we have financialized, because now everybody's getting rich off of debt. When before it was everybody was getting rich off of manufacturing and production, which is another reason China's rising. And China has an interesting system as well. It's not totally communistic. It's not totally socialistic. They do have some capitalistic tendencies in their economy, but the government still has a huge say in their economy. So I've studied Chinese history quite a bit. I don't want to live in China. I am a fan of how they operate. I really respect the fact that they are one of the only, if not the only, civilization that has somewhat of a coherent history for 5,000 years. I can't name another one that's still around for 5,000 years, guys. That's huge. Even during their warring periods, That's
Bro.
insane. So,
My people.
what was that?
People have been around for 5,000 years. There you go.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I'm Indian, bro. India has an ancient civilization.
Okay, yeah,
You're right.
yeah. But China's the one that I know.
China.
So, yes, I mean, no disrespect, but
you're good.
yeah. So,
No, none taken.
So, yeah, I mean, China, I think, is based in a lot of ways. They don't. Well, here's the thing where a lot of Americans won't like China. China doesn't do this multiculturalism crap. They don't do any of it. They don't allow people of darker complexion on their movie posters in China. They don't allow them in their movies. They don't allow any GAY scenes in their movies either. So China is very, very based in that regard. They get it. They get to preserve a culture. They get to preserve a culture and their identity. They can't start, like, I'm not against multiculturalism. If you want to do it, that's on you, but you have to understand you're going to be sacrificing one culture for the other. It's a give and take. It's a give and take. Like when you put water in your orange juice.
I want to clarify that though, which is you're right. I think China deals with a colorism issue, but when you talk about like movie posters, this isn't like China's government demanding like Disney. I know Star Wars is a major example. It was Disney doing that because they realized the best way to market to the Chinese people is to not have dark-skinned people on the poster, which is messed up. Don't get me wrong.
I don't think it's messed up. I think that they have the right to do that. We have no right.
Yeah, it's Disney's marketing. I know.
No. And that's the Chinese people. That's how they feel. That's their culture. They have every right to do that. Just like everybody's criticizing the president of Hungary, or the prime minister of Hungary, rather, Viktor Orban, for saying that, we just want to keep Hungary with Hungarians. And people lost their mind over that. You should have the right as a nation to determine how you want to function within it. And if your people accept that, then we have no right as a foreigner coming in there saying, you should change. That's one of the biggest problems with Americans is we're like, you're doing things wrong because we don't agree with it. You have to adopt to our ideology. No, they have their own way of living. They've been doing it for a long time. Let them do them.
It's imperialist thinking. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that one. Their culture will change or may or may not change. Right? It's up to the Chinese people to make those movements if they feel something's unjust. And you're right. So one of the things, I talk about how Mao's being based. One of the cool things that I really like about what Mao did, the formation, is one of the things is that they used to do in China was foot binding. I'm sure you're familiar with foot binding.
Yep, I am.
Super as gross practice, right? I mean, again, not my place to say, but
I get it.
It was the Chinese people to say to be like, hey, we don't like this practice anymore. This has no bearing on modern Chinese culture, and they eventually uprooted that. They took that out, and so the movements within those countries will determine where the culture goes. People in those countries will determine what they believe and how they go, and so. But so yeah, I mean that's true, and so what simply is that Disney will conform to what the people think. And because they want to make money, right?
Exactly, and you bring up a really good point. This should tell everybody that corporations, they're not like, okay, so I do lean right. I am right wing, obviously, from my belief system and my political viewpoints. I'm right wing. And a lot of right wingers right now are complaining that there's this grand conspiracy amongst corporations to push wokeism on the culture or push socialism or whatever you want to call it. But in reality, that's not the case. They're just conforming to what the people are shifting towards. And a lot of people are shifting towards this ideology of wokeism. Whether you agree with it or not, it's besides the point. The corporations just want your money. That's all.
That's really, I mean, that is, so the thing is, it's like, that's an interesting point. So we have to kind of unpack that, which is, when they, in July or June, right, it's Pride Month.
Yeah.
They put a bunch of flags for Pride Month. And then as soon as that was over, all the flags are gone, right?
Right.
And way to make money. The Ukraine flags are all gone from the companies. Now they put Taiwan flags because the narrative changes. It's like, they don't really care about issues, right? How can we make money in the moment? And so so I think it's like I think it's the interesting point that you made, but
don't get me wrong, I will add this, that while it has a lot to do with the population abiding by or conforming to these new ideologies, it is also true that the corporations now can can do what they want because a lot of them are debt zombies, right? They're only existing because the government is subsidizing the crap out of them. And that's wrong. I'm against government subsidies. I think that all corporations should be run on their own merit. I own a company myself, zero debt. Zero debt. We're growing every day. It's just a lot of hard work and sweat. So it's like companies can do this as well. And I'm not against like companies if you have to take out debt, which I don't think you do, but if you do have to take out debt, just don't live off of the debt, because that's the big issue today is that a lot of these companies, they don't care. A lot of them don't necessarily care what you think. So it sounds kind of contradicting, but it's not, because they sort of work together. Because it's like
they care insofar as they can make money. If they don't make money, they could give a rat's ass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
and I think the other part I wanted to is it echoing here in the hallway? But I was gonna say shoot. I know, but yeah, no. Okay, so in terms of subsidizing companies or corporations, to me, I think interesting point, because like I think that's an economics issue.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they built themselves after World War II, they did so off the back of U.S. government backing, right? Governments would subsidize. They actually paid off the debts. They would allow them to go into like hundreds of millions of dollars in debts. A lot of these Korean corporations, South Korea, Japan, and their entire tech and manufacturing sectors were built off of this. And so, I don't know if I necessarily agree that like, no subsidies, because that built the entire manufacturing. The entire economy of South Korea was made on subsidies, and Japan was made on subsidies. And they have strong economies now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So I mean, yes, like so obviously subsidies aren't all bad, but I think that there is a point where they're not needed. Like a lot of our corporations, man. Why do we need to? I'm not a socialist by any stretch of the imagination, but I definitely get where the socialists come into play or the communists come into play, and they're like, so we can give these large corporate welfares, but we can't give welfare to the people, right? So I get that. So then you just breed division within the country by doing that, by favoring a corporation that's worth multiple billions, and under the guise that you can't have them fail. But in fact, they should fail, right? Because just like to prevent a good forest fire, what needs to happen? You need to burn some of the brush, get rid of some of the dead wood. You need to go through and make sure that you're cleaning it out. And I think that when companies are just totally relying on government subsidies and debt, like all of Elon Musk companies pretty much, I don't think that guy's legit. I think that guy's a fraud. And I think that he's just I personally think he's a puppet for a transhumanist movement, but that's a totally another point. But a lot of his companies, negative, totally negative. So I totally get this. I sympathize with the socialists on that front. Okay. Yeah. So if anybody else wants to come on, feel free to. You create divisions by having a huge gap between working and classism. Classism is always going to be there. That's an insane way of thinking, because there will always be a division in the classes naturally. There has to be. It's just the way it goes. Hey, how's it going?
Good. I'm sorry that the last guy went down. He was arguing with me in the comments about was China actually caught organ harvesting. So I'm over here on humanrightswatch.org.
Let's be careful on our language here, but I'm with you. I'm with you.
No, I mean, it's in the news.
I know. Trust me. Really quick, just a quick preface, just so you're aware.
Sure.
I report things that are strictly in the news today, that are factual, that have been verified, and I've been kicked off of my lives. So,
okay, I see what you're saying.
Yep.
I see what you're saying. I got you. I just want everybody to be aware that I'm not full of shit, and that dude that came in here advocating for communism is full of shit.
Yeah, so let's do this though. Let's play a little devil's advocate. You don't think it's been proven that the United States hospitals do the same thing to organ donors?
Absolutely, and I also believe that abortion is fetal harvesting.
I would agree with that, yes. So the United States is doing the same thing to innocent people, the same way the Chinese government is. And also...
No. Let's like in China, they make people get on their hands and knees. They shoot them and then force doctors that don't want to organ harvest or harvest their heart.
Let's also consider this, that you could be receiving propagandized news, because everybody I've spoken to in China, I went to a university where there were a lot of foreign exchange students.
So you're saying the whistleblower doctor that says he actually performed the organ harvestings that I watched was nothing but propaganda?
So, okay, that's not to say it doesn't happen, but my point is here is that it could be propagandized, right? So I know a lot of people, not a lot, but a handful of people who have either worked in China or are from China, and none of them.
Seen the camps? Are you saying
none
these
of them
camps in China don't exist?
Dude, okay, first off, let me give you some background of myself. I was covering this before you had no clue about it, before you had any idea about it. Guaranteed. I was covering this. I was covering this. I was covering this back in 2018. I was covering that before 2018. All right? Before anybody in America really knew about it. This guy, you can go check it out. A Better World is a YouTube channel where you will find me recording videos in 2018, 2019, talking about this specific topic. Is China doing this? Yes, but he totally missed my first point. And my first point was this: is the United States doing this? Yes, the United States is doing this. Is the United States doing really bad things to their own citizens every day? Is China doing this? Every government has their own issues. Every government has their own propaganda machine. Every government has their own sanctioned, whatever you want to call them, harvesting. Not every government. That's a very blanket term, but a lot of them do. So my whole point in having that conversation with him was to try and help him understand that, dude, China isn't this big, bad, evil place. Like, yes, you can say the same, like, because if you think that, you would have to apply the same logic to the United States. And the United States is very communist in a lot of ways. Thank you for the rose. So, I get it. People get triggered. And trying to teach me something that I've studied a lot more than him. It's always very interesting because now everybody's getting triggered about these news pieces. But what does it matter? They're harvesting there. They're using not the good people's. Oh my God! I don't even know. Oh man, that was kind of brutal. So. Yeah, Tour de France. These did not end up in a pileup, so that's not factual. Oh my gosh. Look at this. And his name's Chad. He's obviously not a Chad. Obviously not a Chad. Yeah, it ended with a few girls winning, but it resulted in a huge pileup in like the 5th stage. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going all right. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad.
Good.
So, what are you exactly debating?
No debates. Just covering these topics here. I covered the news topics in the beginning, which were the Tour de France for the first female one, and then was China bluffing regarding Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan and their very antagonistic, or not even antagonistic, but militarized language. As far as manpower is better than money, that's a talking point that we can discuss. And then big families are the future. Those are talking points we can discuss. So nothing's really being debated here. I mean, if it ends up in a debate, it ends up in a debate, but I'm not here to necessarily debate.
Yeah, so about the China issue, do you think that China is bluffing?
No, they're not. So they've already sanctioned Taiwan in certain ways. They're no longer exporting fruits and other goods to them. Sand in particular is another one that they use for construction. And they've already stopped constructing a manufacturing plant here in the United States that would create batteries. I think that they're also going to continue economic pressure on the United States. And I was just reading this earlier while one of the other guests were on, it just came out that China, I guess, is firing long-range artillery across Taiwan Strait, and so they're not bluffing. I think they're just being very strategic. And as I quoted Mao Zedong earlier, I'll quote it again because it is a very good quote. I think if it's true, and it goes like this: "We will fight the enemy in our own way, at the time we determine, in the place we determine. Will not act according to the enemy's plan, nor will we fall into the enemy's trap." And that was Mao Zedong. So I think that this is what China's applying right there. If that quote's accurate, that philosophy, that strategy is what they're applying. They're doing their own kind of warfare right now. And I think they're going to be more strategic and long-term about it, as opposed to a military conquest of Taiwan. They will assume Taiwan, but it will be in a more peaceful way, I believe.
Yeah, but do you think America should be meddling in the affairs of
No.
Taiwan and China?
I do not.
No. Okay. And why's that?
Why do we have any business doing that? The only reason we're doing it really is to try to keep our our empire intact, to keep the global policing of the United States intact. We don't need it. It's making us weaker than it is stronger. So, and we are investing. Somebody,
our own interests.
yeah. So somebody,
China has imperial ambitions as well.
No,
You
they
see
don't.
Their actions in Africa.
I would
You see what they do. They're engaged in a neo-colonialist project. So I mean, it's really just power politics at the end of the day. You can't really moralize one or the other.
Yeah, so what I would say to that is I will see exactly how it plays out with China, but I do think that due to Xi Jinping's history and his family living under past communist regimes that have excommunicated his father, and he witnessed his sister commit suicide, in a pigsty where they had to live for a long time because they were excommunicated. I think that Xi Jinping's movement to end corruption in China is legit. And I think that from that as well, they've learned that empires fail. And so don't get me wrong, all civilizations fail. But I think that China and Russia both understand, because of their recent history and who their current leaders are, that trying to become an empire is not the best thing to do. And China and Russia are both big fans of internationalism, which is, you can have relationships between nations, but it's not globalism, which the United States and the West are trying to do, which is basically one world governments all working together in harmony and kumbaya, where China and Russia have a more realistic perspective where, while we can wield soft power, because what you're describing is soft power, I think that any nation that's stronger than another nation is automatically going to have soft power, which is influence over them through the media, through the news articles, through diplomacy. A soft power will always be in play. But the hard power is the military, militarizing states like the U.S. has done. China's not doing that. They're going there building infrastructure.
Look at Ukraine, for example. You want to talk about military power? Look at what Russia's doing right now.
Yeah, and that's because Ukraine messed up and NATO was encroaching. So the West was provoking Russia, and they have been provoking Russia since the 1940s.
1940s. Well, yeah, because that was in a Cold War. You know how many states that the Soviet Union invaded, all of Eastern Europe? They were encroaching on Europe, on the West. It's not so if you just paint China and Russia as these they just want to be in their own spheres, and it's just America who's trying to I agree that globalism is a problem in America, but both are playing the game. It's just about power politics.
So I don't think that you're hearing me. I am not denying that there's power politics in play. I've already admitted that China and Russia will use soft power. But what I'm saying is they're not going and colonizing these places. Are they economically enticing them to follow them? Yeah, I think that soft power will always be in play. But that's different than going out and trying to set off military bases in every continent in the world rather. And it's different than, forcing people to give you their stuff. right? Where China and Russia aren't doing that. And what you just described with the Soviet Union is exactly what I said. I don't think Putin's going to do that again because he's seen how poorly it worked out for the Soviet Union. The same reason why I'm saying Xi Jinping won't do that either, because he saw how poorly it worked out for China.
Yeah, but you have to realize that America's like hegemony is rooted in its soft power. You know, primarily we like exert influence through these like soft power methods that you like described. And what you're kind of describing is like the idea of like unipolarity or multipolarity, that like if America ceased to be like a global hegemon, power will be more dispersed throughout the world, and there'll be like different like blocks and spheres of civilization. But I think that's just naive, because China and Russia, if America does decline to the point where we can't exert influence around the world, China and Russia will easily take up that spot, and they will become that global hegemon power that the U.S. is right now.
In a different way, though, in a different way that would promote nationalism as opposed to globalism. That's why I specifically use internationalism, and I still apply the soft power. Additionally, I would say that I believe in a bifurcation happening in the world, where the Western powers will have their own sort of system, and the Eastern powers will have their own sort of system. And so the world's going to be bifurcated in its control. And it's going to be a lot of tension, I believe, in the future between the two hemispheres, if you will. So I don't think it's going to be as cut and dry, but I do think the power is shifting over to China and Russia. I do think that it will potentially be better than the power being in the Western hands. As we've seen, all they push is globalism. That's their agenda, where we're not seeing that, nor are we getting the same rhetoric out of China and Russia. We're getting the rhetoric of, we want nations to be nations. We believe in sovereignty. We have people like George Soros disliking China and Russia because he's saying China and Russia is an affront on the open societies that he wants to create.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't disagree. I think China and Russia are acting in their own interests. But at the end of the day, like, I'm living in the West. I'm part of the West, and I want to see the West succeed. And I agree that we have a problem with our elites right now. They're not acting in our interest. They believe in this globalized humanity where everyone's just uniform, and it's just basically a tool of control. But I think the solution to that is not to ask for help from Russia or China. I think it's to exert, like, we as a people need to come together and replace the elites. We need to take back our countries, take back our sovereignty.
Yeah, so that never works.
That's the path that we need to be on.
Yeah, so that never works. Historically, that's never once happened. There's always a small group of elites that end up replacing another group of elites. That's historically how it always works in regime changes. People that protest in the streets, the masses that protest in the streets, are typically, not even typically, they're always pawns to the greater game that they don't even see playing. And what you're going to get next is another group of elites that you don't like down the road. Maybe not you necessarily, but your grandkids. They're going to think similar lines to what you're along the similar way that you're thinking now. So it's cyclical. These things are seasons, right? They're seasons. Leaderships, empires, all these things have their seasons. And right now, the West is going through the winter season. And this is just something we have to accept. It's not that I want China and Russia to rise. I'm accepting the reality of the world, and I'm trying to figure out how it's going to work. Will it be better? Will it be worse? I think it may be a little bit better, especially for the United States and the citizens of the United States, because no longer will we have to worry about our military, our government wanting to interfere into international affairs the way that they do now. So maybe that will reduce it. Maybe the U.S. dollar not being the top dog, not being number one, will help us as well in many ways. Maybe it'll help us become a more moral society, right? Maybe it'll help us realize that families and community are where strength lies. Because right now, with us being at the top of the helm, we're all fat on the hog, and we can get as much money as we like. And how many spoiled kids are there? There's a lot of them. And how many parents don't want to be parents? How many parents rather have the TV screen or a soulless institution called public school teach their child? A lot of them. So I think that it could be a good thing overall for the West. And it's not that I want it. It's that I'm accepting reality. This is the reality that we're in. we're entering in the winter season, and it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to make things better, I believe, in the long run. I'm very optimistic long run for the West.
So you're basically saying we need to accept. Wait, so you're basically saying we need to accept the collapse and then try to make something out of it.
Yes, because
basically saying?
Yeah. So I mean, it's coming. It's inevitable at this point. Where every empire has their cycles, we're at the end of ours. So what I like to do, the way I prepare, is I'm localizing my supply chain. So I help out at a local farmer since I can't grow my own food where I'm at currently. I help out with them twice a week. We get a bunch of milk, meat, eggs, etc. for the little bit for the work I do there for a few hours during the week. And the other thing I'm doing is working on service-based businesses that are beneficial to my community. So the best thing I think anybody can do is localize their supply chains as much as possible, have big families, and follow God, follow the good, beautiful, and true. There were people that lived during the Civil War that didn't even know the Civil War took place. So there's a lot of things that I'm very optimistic about the future for those of us that are aware of it and can capitalize on it. Because the titans of industry, whatever industry you're thinking about, the titans of those industries were mostly made during the Depression and bad economic times.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see where you're coming from, but I think it's kind of accepting a defeatist attitude that I don't think we need to have. And
It's
I agree
not.
there is, what I see is like this movement with Trump. Trump really he's almost staging a coup on the elites, and this like Trump movement is a sentiment of like a populist uprising. And I agree to some extent when you say that like there will always be an elite. But the question is, who's going to be the elite? Is it going to be the elite that cares about our interests? That's like a nationalist elite, or is it going to be this globalized international corporations that leads us? And I think with Trump, with this current political movement, I think we could replace the elite. We can become our own sovereign nation again, and we don't have to just give up the helm to China and Russia and accept being vassal states. I don't think that's going to be a good future for anyone.
It's already gone, man. There's no saving it. There's no saving it whatsoever. Just look at the wokeism that's affected the total nation, the total West. There's no saving it. So I mean, what's going to happen is there's going to be a huge, with every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. So we have the extreme left coming out right now, what you're going to see in the near future, and it's going to be a lot more. I got to be careful with my language. It's going to be a lot more intense when the right-wing extremists come into power. They will take action. They will take action in ways that the left is not taking action, and it's going to be very intense. So the pendulum's just going to swing hard
Trump
the other
is
way.
Part of the extreme right?
No. I think Trump he's a funny dude. He was good in a lot of ways. He was probably the best president we've had in a long time, but another puppet overall. Now, it's not a defeatist mentality that I have. It's called accepting reality. Defeatist mentality would be like, do nothing, you're done for, it's over. Me, I'm like, no, you can build. When things are destroyed, guess what that means? There's an opportunity for somebody to come along and build. So know where you're at. Time the market, right? So it's like, all right, things are starting to collapse. That means people are going to need builders. That's what I'm saying. I'm very optimistic. I'm far from a defeatist mindset because I know within my heart that the good, beautiful, and true will withstand forever. So I know that God at the end of the day always wins. So I'm far from a defeatist.
Yeah, but God only helps the man that helps himself.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Our hands and expect for God to give His grace to us. We have to actually fight for our future.
And that's what I'm saying. There's no point in going against any kind. It's insane. We got to watch what we're saying here. It's insane to think that you will have any change on the national level. Don't do that. Stop wasting your time. Focus on your local community. Your local sheriff is one of the most powerful people you'll meet in your hometown. Your local council people, your mayor. some of the most powerful people you'll know in your life directly. So if you want to get political locally, not with your senators, not with your presidents. Focus on the locality. Your local community is where you'll have the most power. That's what I'm saying. So I agree with you. Like, if you want to do something, the best thing to do, if you don't want to be political, in my opinion, is have a homestead. This is what America comes from, guys. Most of the presidents from the past grew up on a farm. America was raised on people homesteading and pioneering. And that doesn't mean that we all have to be full-time farmers. That would be insane. But take some responsibility for your food chain, for your food supply. That's a very basic thing that you could do. So it's not about, oh, God, please help me, and do nothing about it. I'm totally with you. But it's not to turn around and say, we need to change the whole country. No, that's insane. That's narcissistic to even begin that us here on TikTok Lives could have any change in that, because we probably won't. You probably won't get elected to senator. And if you do get elected to senator in your state, you're probably going to get bought and paid for eventually, right? That's just the way of the game. Same with the House of Representatives. So the best thing that one can do, in my opinion, focus on your local politics. If you want to get political, if you don't want to get political, focus on your local supply chains and how you can be a valuable asset to your community. That's the future.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this before that, like, oh, leave the cities, go out into the rural areas, start a farm, just live with your family. I think that's great and all, but at the end of the day, someone's going to have to occupy the positions of power. And if you just seize that ground, it's going to be the people, it's going to be your enemies, the people that want the worst for you. They're going to come and take it. And you have to engage in the battle. Even though it's not pretty, you have to do it. Because there's really no other option. There will be, people in power. And, if you want to live it, you can only live on your farm for so long before they start coming out to you, seizing your land.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. That's all fairy tale and fiction.
Really?
It really is.
So
I mean,
whole COVID thing, you think that the government...
Well, let's be careful. Hang on. This is on YouTube. Hang on. This is on YouTube as well. YouTube strikes me anytime we talk about this. So the whole C word, we'll call it the C word.
Okay, yeah, the C word. Just in terms of how the government has been able to, strip people of their liberties using these streams.
They haven't. No, they haven't.
They haven't.
No, they haven't, because I never relinquished my rights. I never once put something on my face. I never once put anything in my body. I never once took a test. Why? Because I'm a free man. I have God on my side, and I was able to combat all of that stuff very easily by just saying, I do not comply. I do not comply. The farmer that I work with, he never once wore a mask either. And he still gets all of their produce that they feed their animals. They get from a supermarket for free. And every time he was going there during the height of it, never wore a mask. They talked to him one time about it. He was like, I'm not wearing it. They're like, okay. How many people said no? Not many people said no. Not many men had the cojones to say no. That's the issue.
Yeah, but I mean, you can look at people that got their small businesses shut down
because they were weak.
Because they're deemed non-essential.
Because they were weak. No, they don't. No, they don't. Because I know people in a community I'm involved in who had businesses in LA, non-essential businesses in LA. The government tried to shut them down. They never shut down. Never. They did not quit. Once again, you just have to be willing to stand your ground. You have to be willing to risk it all on a hill. I'll put it that way. Most men aren't capable of doing that. That's the real fight, my man. Not going in there, switching the levers of power. The levers of power will become corrupt eventually, as I've already stated. Your grandkids, let's say we have this huge change, right? Maybe your great-grandkids will start feeling the same way you're feeling about the people that you were like, they're good. So it's cyclical. It's about you yourself. I don't know if you're Christian at all. I don't know if you care about any of that stuff. But something in the Bible that I think is really profound is when the prophets go to these towns that are about to be destroyed because of their wicked ways, they never say, go to your government and never. They always say, repent, talking to the individual, change your ways, Change your ways. It's never, oh, everybody come here. All right, let's try to work up a new elite. No, it's always to the individual. Change your ways. And then also something that I think is, give me 1 second. Also something that I think is really powerful in the Bible too is the people who are following God. Moses, he was the only one to get on the boat from the story. Lot and his family. Lot and his family were the only ones to escape Sodom and Gomorrah, right? So if you have faith in God and you're doing the right things and you're following the good, true, and the beautiful, it doesn't matter, man.
Yeah, but what did Jesus say? Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's.
Exactly.
I don't think you can yeah. So it's not just this completely libertarian mindset where just be an individual and
no.
At the end of the day, we live in a society. We live
yes.
amongst a group of people, and there's certain things that there's a sort of collective conscience. And that's
yes.
influenced by many sorts of ways. Religion used to be the main way. That's disappeared. So where do people go to now? They go to the government and what the media is pushing. And it's the most destructive, poisonous garbage that they're pushing on the youth and society in general. We need to be the ones influencing people because someone is going to do it. That's just the way of.
So do you know the network effect
of modernity right now?
Do you know the network effect?
That we need to be the ones influencing and actually promoting the good, promoting the beautiful.
Yes. Do you know? I totally agree with you, and I think the government's a beautiful thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's necessary in the world that we live in. So I totally sympathize where you're coming from and wanting to change things on this global federal level. But think about the long-term effects of what I'm talking about, because I'm trying to think of this in a long-term scale. Do you know what the network effect is?
No, I don't.
So basically, you have this one thing that grows out into that goes into something else, right? I'll use an analogy. Like one way you can use the network effect is as such. You have one good family, right? They have good morals. They're God-fearing people. Their children are, very obedient to them. They have the proper roles in the household between the husband and woman. And what then happens is from another community, another family gets inspired by that. They're like, wow, boom. So now you have two families doing the same thing. And then from two families, because of what they're doing, you then get 4 families, and then 6 families, and then 12 families, and then 30 families, and then 60 families, until you've affected a lot of people. So that's what that is referring to. And this is why having big families is so important. So, yeah, I totally sympathize with where he's getting from. You don't give money to these people. Give to the poor, please. Pastors or crooks, some hiding. Yeah, some of them are. I totally agree with you. I know that there were a couple other people that wanted to come in. If you still want to come in, feel free. Unless you test everything for yourself, you accept what you were told on faith. Science is just an easy way to pay off a politician. Science is just an easy way to pay off a politician. In some ways. I never wore one, even flew without one because of... Yeah, exactly. He gets it. And he got to see Hunter Biden, the profile picture. That's great. I love the name and I love the profile picture. So, yeah. And this is also why manpower is better than money, because you can do so much more with human capital than you can with dollar bills. So I totally sympathize with that belief system. I really do, that, there needs to be something changed. There needs to be something done in order to sway the public consciousness. I totally empathize with that. But I think the best way to do it is starting locally. Starting locally is the best way to do it. That's where you'll have the most effect. That's where you'll have the most strength. That's where you have the most influence. So it's honorable to think that, there needs to be, Nick Fuentes, who I'm not a huge fan of at all, but Nick Fuentes made the point, where he may be coming from, I don't know, but that people need to be in the cities participating. or else they're going to start coming for the farms and stuff like that. I don't believe that. I mean, yeah, you're going to have some people coming at the farms, but it's not going to be many. And it's not going to be as intense as people think it is going to be, because the people on the farms are going to have tighter knit communities. They're going to be more resourceful than those coming to the farms. Those are the weak people coming to the farms. Anyway, so to take over the city, to have an influence in the cities and all of that, I get it. But it's not the most effective way, especially over long term. And cities usually end up being the most degenerate places to be. No matter what America do, China will take over as number one world economy within this decade. Probably. You're probably right. So, yeah. But if nobody else has any questions, anything they want to add, or even want to come up on here, then we're going to call it a day. I think it was a good live stream. I thank you all for participating. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And as always, subscribe to everything MOT Media. And, MOT News for this one. Then we got MOT Today 1 is another TikTok account. MOT Sports is another one. MOT Media is the backup account. And then MOT Media everywhere else, YouTube, all that good stuff. So, yeah, we'll be back here tomorrow at about the same time. So, okay, thanks. It was entertaining. Glad you were entertained, man. So, yeah, hope you guys have a great day. Much love. Peace.